Welcome everyone to another observability clinic. It's another tips and tricks community session, episode 19. It's about unleashing the power of Dynatrace Real User Monitoring based dashboards using the client SDK. As you know, the new dashboards that we have, as well as the notebooks, are mainly focused on data that is already in Grail, but we have great opportunities also to get external data in. And with external, this could also mean data that is currently still stored in our second gen store, like RUM data. Now, RUM data will become part of Grid as well, but until then, if you want to build awesome dashboards, I've invited the man for the job, John Kelly, or John, as you like to call yourself, TechShady. How are you?
I am doing great. How you doing, Andy G? Glad
Very
to be on.
good. Yeah, John, or TechShady, you have consistently been, I think, the top teacher in the Dynatrace Hot Days for Perform around dashboards and the power of dashboards. We had sessions in the past also on the clinics. Today is really a tips and tricks session, as I said, to make sure people see how they can leverage the new dashboarding capabilities with data that might not yet already be in Grail, but it's external data that comes from somewhere completely external, or data that still sits in other parts of Dynatrace. But I think this is enough me talking. Jay, let us know what you've prepared for us and walk us through the examples.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before I get into exactly what we're going to learn today, first off, obviously, thank you, Andy, for having me on. And I've been on previous clinics and, like you said, also the Power Hot Day dashboarding sessions that Perform. And there's always a lot of times it's come a little bit of caveat because what we were doing previously and with the older generational dashboards is that we were trying to enhance them and really to give you guys, the customer, more power within the dashboard. And so we created things like a BizOps configurator to help with automation. And we created something called the Power Ups, which is a Chrome plugin to enhance the dashboard tiles, but provide more capabilities. And so again, that was with a caveat because those were things that weren't really supported within Dynatrace or community driven, but customers were free to use that. But today, everything changed, right? So as we moved into our new generational dashboard app, everything is supported and fully within the tile. So when we're doing things like today, where there's no need to have to go to the old generational dashboards because you want to see and visualize some run data, you can visualize that all within the new platform. And hopefully as you get through here, what is going to be planting some seeds as to the capabilities of what you can do within the new dashboard app. And then also, Andy, we have another session in the future, which is going to get into more advanced concepts. And you'll start to see that the power that you have today within the new dashboard app, there would be no reason to go back to any of the other Gen 2. And all the RUM data, everything else that you were looking to try, and it's not quite yet in Grail, you can do today. And that's what we're going to hopefully accomplish today.
Cool.
So what are you going to learn today? So we've worked very hard at building this out. In the previous, we had something called our BizOps configurator. It was a tool to deploy dashboards. With the power of the new dashboarding application, we're moving more towards what we call like a self-service and being able to build content, which is what my team does, and very easily get that out to where you can use Dynatrace to learn about Dynatrace and basically deploy these dashboards. So we keep everything all within the product, and we do that through a notebook. And so we'll cover how we can utilize this notebook, how you can get access to it, and help you, number one, build your own content, right? Maybe you want to start from scratch, build your own dashboard, and we'll walk you through those steps on how you can leverage the self-service notebook to help you build this content so that you don't have to write JavaScript code, things like that, that we have templates already pre-built. Or we also have complete full-blown RUM-enabled dashboards that you can just simply select, download, upload into your particular tenant. And all this is really just trying to help you quickly build dashboards so you can really achieve better business outcome with, especially with the RUM data. So before I get into that part, I just want to cover one thing really quickly, which is, and if you've ever seen any of my sessions on dashboards, I'm always kind of a big proponent of, best practices. And the main reason why, and I won't get into, there's many best practices, but I just really kind of picked out two for today. One of which is what I call wireframing. And it's very important because we're creatures of habit, Andy, right? So whenever we have, like, for example, Windows, the start button was always in the lower left corner. And one Windows update moved it to the middle, I guess to maybe try and make it look more like a Mac or something like that. And it really threw me off because I'm a creature of habit. I'm always going to go to that lower left corner until I figured out, okay, I can just move it back, right, with a settings change. But it's the same look and feel. When things are moved, when you move your cheese, people tend to get confused. So this is an example of a wireframe that I typically use, and you'll see this within all my dashboards. I'm not saying that you have to use this, but when you build content for your end customers, so you're the Dynatrace champion, yeah, I highly recommend that you kind of pick in a consistent wireframe so everyone knows where data is going to be consistently. And what I do within the dashboards, you'll see within the notebook that you can easily deploy. The top part's going to have a title and some sort of metric banner up at the top with certain KPIs. The middle section is going to have some summary and details. And then usually the bottom has some form of a time series graph, right? So they're all going to look the same. So when I'm looking at something like an executive overview, and I look at a Core Web Vitals overview and a conversion overview. So these are many different dashboards. These are all simple download, upload, and they work within any environment. The consistency is the same. So Andy, when you're looking at a dashboard like this, and you're looking at, say, things like Apdex, you always know that it's going to be kind of in that upper right-hand corner, no matter which dashboard you're looking at. So consistency. People navigate their eyes to what's most important, and it's always going to be pretty much the same. And the views and visualizations will change, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And also, I think you will show this later in the demo. These dashboards are also, well, I'm not sure what the right technical term is, adjustable, or like they automatically scale as you a smaller screen, bigger screen. But having this consistency gives people an easier way to navigate between different dashboards, and they always know what they find depending on where they look on the dashboard. Yeah, no, I really like it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And being an old guy like me, it's easier around the eyes when it's consistent, and I'm not trying to look and find things. Now, with that being said, okay, and not to throw anyone under the bus, was just probably created by somebody here at Dynatrace, but we don't want what I call here is this is like a yard sale data dashboard. And what is a yard sale? Have you ever been to a yard sale? It's just crap all over the place, right? And so that's kind of where that, hey, maybe this is some good content and good information, but it's way too cluttered, right? It's kind of hard to look at. Matter of fact, it's like over here, there's like the CPU usage, like in that infrastructure column. It's the first column, second row kind of there. It's impossible to kind of interpret, is the CPU usage good or bad? It's just too much stuff there, right? And so we don't want to kind of build dashboards like this. Because there has too many themes. There's a problem focus, an application, a service, an infrastructure, database, and there's even a network down in the bottom corner, which sometimes I don't even really get to because there's just too much that I want to see. So usually what we recommend with dashboards like this is breaking into separate components, right? If you want to focus on services, there's some really good things in this dashboard, like those honeycombs, then just simply focus on that. And one of the things you could do here is even break it down into a combination of a notebook and a dashboard, right? So I would take like the services, the honeycombs, and put them in the notebook. They can refresh it, and when they start to see maybe some services or Java service or things turn red, then they can go to just a services detailed overview dashboard, right? And be able to kind of leverage both tools to how they were built to maybe serve your end customer. Okay.
Yep.
All right. With that all being said, Andy, you ready to hop into this and see how this really works?
I want to see this live because unless I see it live, you might just be the best PowerPoint program in the world, but everything is fake news.
No, there's no fake news here. This is all legit and real. So when we get down to after the demo, there's going to be a summary. There'll be a little QR code for where you can get this notebook, because everything is within this notebook that allows you to enable dashboards. So no longer do we need things like the BizDesk configurator, PowerUp extension. Everything is here within the product. So the great thing about this, as I mentioned before, is now you can self-teach your end customer who needs dashboards. Let them self-service themselves. So you teach them Dynatrace within Dynatrace. And I think that's really, really important. And the way we break down this notebook is that I have, some code tile examples and some variable examples that show up here up in the front. And this is really important because if you want to build your own content from scratch, we want to be able to help you do that quickly. All right. And then if you want to create different variables and so forth, that's here. Below, and we'll get into this in a few minutes, are a series of different dashboards. We list the prerequisites, the target audience, and the use cases for each one. And then we have the install instructions. And we'll go through each one of those, but for the most part, if you have things like conversion goals or a session property, if it's created with or required within the dashboard, then it's just simply you download, upload, and you're off and running with the dashboard with no configuration within the dashboard needed at all. Okay.
That's really
So,
cool. And John, maybe
yep.
one quick thing as a reminder, as you said, the link to this, you will find it in the description of the video, also later on in the QR code. Essentially, we've uploaded this notebook to the new Playground tenant that everyone has access to. So you can either get it from there or from the Git repository. So everything is fully transparent. Everything is available. We share it all.
Awesome. So Andy, I want to build a dashboard. I want to build a pie chart. But I want to pull in, say, some RUM data, and do I have to go back to Gen 2? You heard earlier that don't go there, right? So we want to keep it within Gen 3. So we want to use the SDK, right? So the first thing that I typically would do here is I'd come over to create a new dashboard. So once you're into the dashboard area, if you click on the plus dashboard, I'm now created a new dashboard, right? And I wanted to create, say, like a pie chart, and I wanted to pull in data from the old gen, so using the SDK. I have to come over here and there's not a Git query for Grail because that data is not in Grail yet. So I have to go to Code Tile. If I click Code Tile, then it's, Andy, I'm getting kind of worried here because now it's like I have to know maybe some sort of TypeScript or JavaScript, right, to be able to code this. And Andy, if you know me, I've been around so long, and I'm not kidding you, and I'm not making this up, is the last time I coded was on a mainframe. I think it was an Amdahl, and I coded in COBOL, and we used punch cards. I'm not kidding you. It's true. And you probably read about that in history books. So how am I going to actually now write JavaScript code? Because I have no idea. And a couple months ago, I had no idea how to write JavaScript code. All right. So this is what we want to do to make life easy for you, right? So if I go back over here to my notebook, okay, and let's go ahead and open up notebooks and go back into my business dashboard. I want the pie chart. So if I click here for pie chart, it's going to take me to a sample code already written for a particular pie chart. I'm going to copy that. All right. And I'm going to go back to my dashboard here. And in my code tile here, right, I can do this easy, right? I'm just going to paste in the code. And then I'm going to go ahead and run it. All right. And I need to then now select my visualization, but since I selected the pie chart, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on pie chart. And there's my pie chart, right? That easy, that quick to be able to pull things together.
So, John, let me just quick recap. First of all, thanks for dating yourself, that you haven't been coding for a while. But in all seriousness, it's super great what you show here, because we are fetching external data, meaning external to Grail, into the dashboard. And this can be data that sits anywhere in the world, right? You can also use the JavaScript to query data that you have in an external observability platform that is accessible through an API. And I think it's great that you have all of these examples shared on how you can fetch the data also, now in your case, from the Dynatrace Real User Monitoring data store, which still resides in our Gen 2 storage platform. Yeah, that's really cool.
Absolutely. And just as a plug for Perform, like the Power Dashboarding Hot Day session, one of the sessions within that session we're going to have is about external API stuff. And so one of the guys is very simple and easy. He's pulling actually an API through like Pokemon, and he has like a Pokemon dashboard. We want to make it kind of fun and engaging and have that as like the very end, so that you see how we can pull data from anywhere, right? Not just Dynatrace, and not just the Gen 2 or the previous version of Dynatrace, anywhere, right? And it's very simple, very easy to do that. And when we give these templates and these examples, then it's very easy to customize it, right? And so next thing is, like, we want to look at really quickly here is that, yeah, this is great, but I want to be able to, you're looking at, and what we're doing here is the user stat score, right? So I can see that, hey, out of all my apps, 82% are satisfied. But what about, do I have to build this same dashboard 100 times because I have 100 apps? That's in the old generation. That's why we built the BizOps configurator to quickly do that. But what that led to is dashboard explosion. So now with the newer dashboards, we can easily add a variable and make this a very dynamic dashboard. And so to kind of show that really quickly here, what I'm going to do is go back and I'm going to pull in, I want to put a variable filter based on applications. So very similar here, I'm going to go ahead, it's going to point you to the code snippet that I'm going to pull here, copy that, all right, go back to my Dynatrace dashboard here. And now what I'm going to do is hit the plus sign over here in the upper right-hand corner next to the hour drop down. And I want to add a variable. All right. And so I'm going to call this app name. And it's code. And just like I did over within the tile, I'm going to paste in my code and run it. Right. And I want to make sure it's working. And it did. It fetched in because I'm doing a select application. I could also do this in DQL, right, and return back my app names. I usually like to do this in USQL because maybe I want to put a where clause in here to say I only want to look at applications that have, conversion goals created or, certain criteria I can easily add to it and then filter this list down if I need to. But that looks good. And more importantly, I can make, multi-select. I'll just leave it a single select and then I'll go ahead here and add that variable. And so now the variable is in place here. All right. Now what I want to do is, and we'll show this at the end of the presentation, but I want to make a little change here. All right. So this is the template's good, but I don't necessarily care, Andy, about user experience. I want to look at all the user sessions and where are they coming from. All right. So if I change this part, it's the only part I have to change. This is where we're building the USQL query. I can actually put in something like country. All right, and if you don't know exactly the query, you can always go over here to query user sessions and run and test your query, right? So now that I have this piece in place here, then I want to be able to filter my where clause based upon my application, right? And if I come over here and I want to say where user action application. And there's very good help documentation on the query. So if you're not really familiar with that. So this is where I want to then in here, I want to say, hey, whatever that variable is that you selected with app name, I want to put in here. So I make this a dynamic query, right? And now I don't have to create multiple copies of this dashboard, one for each app. And to do this, it's a string. So what I'm going to do is end the string and concatenate and add in the variable. And if I just start typing, it's going to figure out that, hey, you have this environment variable called app name already here. So that puts that into what I just built in, right? And then I want to continue my string, right? So then I have a plus sign, and then I start my string up again. And it gives me my quotes, okay? So here I go. Where's my tick mark? All right. All right, and then I got to end the quote for there, and then I got to put a and I believe I got everything right. So I'm just saying where the user action name equals, I end my quote, I put in this, whatever we've selected here, all right? And then I say and start time and so forth. So if I run this, look at that, Andy, how sweet is that, right?
That's
So
very
now
cool.
I have it by country and by my different apps. And so if I drop down here and I selected, say, like my cloud easy travel app, now it's like dynamic. I don't have to create like a whole bunch of these dashboards, one for each app. Very simple, where I use a template that's in the notebook. I changed it because I didn't want to look at user experience. I want to look at country. And then I added a variable and then just changed the query to reflect and use that variable that's selected up here. All right, and you can do things where I can change it to, do a multi-select and so forth like that. Very easy to do.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Andy?
Really cool. We had Thomas Ziegelbecker in the beginning when the new dashboards came out, and he showed a little bit of variables. But I think what you show here is the power of making it so dynamic, because you can query the drop-down list, the variable, from any type of data source. It can be data in Grail, but it can, with JavaScript, be coming from any type of data source, internal to Dynatrace, but also external. And then what's really nice is once you change the variable, then the dashboard will automatically re-execute all the queries on all of your tiles and basically refresh the data based on your selection. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, one of the two things that we promised, right, is we would be able to help you create your own dashboards quickly, which you saw here, but also go through and then you utilize the notebook to, build out or select some of the pre-built content. All right. And this is what, kind of really happy with a lot of the content that we've developed here. And so this is what my group really focuses on is creating these different dashboards, right? So we got a great job because that's all we do is we create and play with dashboards all day long. So Andy, we have like an executive overview dashboard, or there's a couple different dashboards. So let's just do the executive overview. Very, very straightforward. I don't want to have to go through and manually build each of these different tiles. Now, the one thing to pay attention to with any of these dashboards is just the prerequisites. This tells me that I need to have a conversion goal created. That's going to tell me what starts a particular transaction. So this can be more business transaction focused, and then also what ends it. And there's a link here that if you click on the link, it's going to take you to the help doc within Dynatrace to say this is how you create a conversion goal. Okay. These have already been created in my particular environment, so I don't have to worry about that. And this also now helps me that if I'm actually building this dashboard for, my customer, right? So I'm the Dynatrace expert, but I have all these executives and so forth. I know the target audience it's geared for, and I know all the use cases and things that this dashboard is going to help with, right? And they're listed here very cleanly. But for me, I'm the Dynatrace champion, and I simply just want to deploy this dashboard. And so follow these instructions. All I have to do is basically download and upload this and then follow a couple steps here. Should be good to go. So if I click on this dashboard here, it's going to take you to the repository where it tells me to go ahead and click here to download the actual file. So now that's been downloaded, that easy. I'm coming over here to dashboards. All right. And you'll notice that on the bottom here, there's an upload button. I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now this dashboard I just downloaded is in my download folder. Okay, it's sitting right here, and just simply go ahead and open that. And the dashboard is going to open up here. Now what you'll notice is that there's code tiles, right? Which when we get to Grail, session data and Grail, these will all be DQL and the dashboard will just load automatically. But since we're doing and using like the SDK, it's technically a third-party kind of call. We need to click on this review all code button, and then if you always trust this code and this documentation, accept and run, the dashboard is going to just load here. Now what I want to do is select my easy travel Angular app. All right, now the starting of the actual transaction is when the user logs in, and then when they come over here and they hit credit card validated, they've successfully converted. Right now the dashboard, every tile it works fine. Now, one of the things, Andy, that I want to just kind of point out really quickly is one of the things I really liked about USQL is the ability to do time shifts, right? But when you selected the time shift, it was locked into the tile. Now with the code, I can say, hey, I'm looking at the last 2 hours. It's shifting by 1 day. Okay. I can click over here and say, let's go ahead and actually do a 7-day time shift. Everything updates. Okay. Now I look at, I have 629 sessions in the last 2 hours compared to the same time last week. It's down 277, right? So very good value. Now you might not know what this time shift is, Andy. You might say like, what is this? Some sort of weird thing that Shady created and so forth. Every dashboard that you deploy within that notebook, the bottom corner, there's going to be a help documentation. If you click it, it's going to give you a user guide, and it's going to tell you exactly what is time shift. Everything within that dashboard is fully explained here, step by step, right? So now, not only you self-service, but now you don't have to pick up the phone every time an executive calls and says, hey, what is this, average time on site? How is this being calculated, right? Tell them to click the help, and they can find out that the average time on site is, shows exactly how it's being created here, this average session duration, right? And so this is something that, we've worked hard is to not only just push content out, but give you the help, give you the guidance to be able to do it quickly.
Perfect. And folks, if you look at this closely, right, this is the GitHub repository. that John put together. We actually moved all of this over to the Dynatrace Perf Clinic as well. So as you're watching this, and if you follow the links to the Git repository, you will actually find it in the Perf Clinics. But in the end, it's all public repositories. Really cool stuff. Self-explanatory, self-service, showing the power of code tiles in the new dashboards, being able to pull in any type of data, right? And obviously you are highlighting here data that is in Dynatrace, but I want to remind people, this shows the true power of the platform. While we want all of the data obviously in Dynatrace, and you can access it through Grail or even our code tiles, you can also bring in any external data for your analytics dashboards. Really, really powerful.
Absolutely. And so Andy, just to plug, like our next session we're going to do, which is making a little bit more advanced. We're in that notebook, you'll notice down towards the bottom, there are two dashboards. They're more advanced, and you can deploy them. Yeah, easy. It's simple download, upload, just like I did with the executive overview dashboard. Those dashboards have causal AI built into it. So with the power of our code tiles, we can now take a look at, say, a time series graph, and we can analyze that, okay? A pie chart, I can automatically analyze that without you having to look at the chart and determine whether it's good or bad. We'll do that for you, right? And so there's a lot of power in those dashboards, and then we'll get into that into a more advanced session. So just a little bit of a plug. But they're available in the notebook, and the documentation fully explains it. But that gets to a whole nother level of being able to have causal AI driven dashboards, and I think that's the way to go, right? And that's the future, and the future's here now. So, all right. So Andy, how to use this in your environment, right? So we kind of looked at the self-service steps. There's the QR code. You can kind of scan it, and then, as Andy said, that's going to take you to the Perf Clinic repo. Everything all locked in there, so not to worry about the one I used here. It's more familiar with what I've been building over the time. You must have Gen 3 access, right, to the new dashboard app. As you can see, you download that notebook. It's in Andy's Perf Clinic repo, right? So on the Playground tenant as well. Just simply, upload that and save them to your tenant. And then you could also then create now notebooks, as you are the Dynatrace champion, as you start to educate everyone else to use Dynatrace. Why not put things in a notebook, right? So that's kind of how, way back in the old days when I went to school, everything was in my notebook. That's how I learned. And when I needed to go take a test and I studied from the notebook, right? So everything was there. Use that. So people use Dynatrace to learn about Dynatrace, right? You build your own content, as we saw with the pie chart, and I modified the query to go to country and added a application variable. Very easy to do. All the pre-built contents there, just pay attention to the prerequisites, and they should be good to go with help on every dashboard at the bottom right-hand corner. All right, make sure you review the code and trust the document, and you should be good to go, right? And so just kind of, sit back and enjoy. Know that, hey, dashboarding is now so easy and so powerful as we go forward. Last slide I have here is really quickly just to look at a lot of the business dashboards. Obviously, we're using the SDK to pull in data from RUM into our new gen, and just to look at the construct of what that code looks like, right? So again, I'm an old fogey, COBOL, punch cards, mainframe back in the day. This I got pretty good at cutting and pasting, but I kind of knew the construct of what to change, right? This is the call to get the RUM SDK. In the dashboards, or even all the examples, you notice that, hey, I'm using a global variable for my time frame start and end, because everything I want to display is like whatever you adjust the time frame. I want my tiles to reflect that. So I just simply grab those variables and convert them to something I can use within a query as well as my call. Now that this constant USQL query is where you might go ahead and make those changes, right? Because I didn't want user experience, I wanted country, so I simply just changed this, okay? And I wanted to add a variable in here, so I modified, and this is just building a string, right? And adding in maybe some sort of parameters into that string. And so we can all modify a string, okay? And that's very easy to do. Then this is just simply a call to the SDK with the start end time frame. Maybe a little bit redundant because, hey, if I've already limited the start time frame, I don't need to use this in this query here. True, so you don't really need this part of the where clause. but I just put it in there just to show that as the example. And then this part here just processes the results that are returned from the API, right? And so I'm putting this into a pie chart, and that's how we do it. And if you selected the example for table, single value, this section down here will look a little bit different, right? But it's because it's going to produce that result set. And when you put that in place, when you run it, just make sure you select the visualization that matches, right? So this is the pie chart. I had to go and select pie chart, and then everything works fine. So hopefully that is very simple. I want to thank you, Andy G, for having me on the Perf Clinic. It's been an absolute pleasure. So enjoy showing you this, and hopefully the seeds have been planted where you see that, hey, this new gen dashboarding is the way to go. I'm never going back, right? And we can support you with data that's not quite in Grail today. And as it gets forward, we'll continue to support you into the future. So again, thank you.
Well, thank you. Danke, muchas gracias, John Kelly. It was great, especially, as I said, with all of these examples, people are looking forward to examples, code examples for variables, code examples for code tiles. You mentioned, again, that we have the ability to use the dashboards to show data in Grail, data that is not in Grail. We can even combine data from Grail and also data that comes from external data sources, right? I mean, the power is, we have unlimited possibilities now with all this. Thank you so much. And we will make sure that you get all the links in case there is feedback and questions. We encourage you to either leave a comment on the video here or just reach out to us directly. You have our names. I'm pretty sure you find a way to get a hold of us, or you go to the community, community.dynatrace.com. This is where you can also ask your questions, and we will make sure to answer anything that is related to this. Thank you. Danke. Ciao, ciao.